I'm gonna hit the record.
Yeah. Am I coming in good?
Welcome to Blues Clues. This is I'm your host, Steve.
I don't like that you. Yeah, I don't like that you did that at all. It's because I may have said something before we started recording that's inspired him to kind of like introduce it that way. First of all, I don't know where you got that fan from. Where's you even? What is it, like a bag of tricks underneath the camera right now? That's such a random thing to pull out. Secondly, that's what she said. And thirdly, welcome to the show. Thank you for sticking around long enough for us to reach whatever episode number this is. Brendan, how you doing
Episode
today?
5, and we have more subscribers than fingers that I have on my body.
Mm.
So that's
Oh,
that's good.
oh,
Yeah,
okay. All
yeah.
right. We're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Shit. Show you
Uh,
right. And
BJ can. I don't want to blow your spot up, but I thought it was endearing before the recording started. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the
no
with
one
the
is.
with the show
No
Blues
one.
Clues. I bet they are. And so the reason I was doing this was when BJ was coming into the room with his headphones, apparently
I
to
was hot.
himself.
I was hot mic'd. By the way, I wasn't. I didn't agree to this. By the way, I didn't know the mic was on. But continue. Go ahead.
I don't
Do
hocus
what you
stuff up.
do. Do what you do. And
So
I'll do what I
BJ
do.
comes, he approaches the thing and he goes, "Blues could do, we can too." And in my mind, I'm like, "Brrr," and like,
You know?
oh no, people know.
No one knows. Okay,
Well,
no one. People do know.
they do
People
know.
definitely do know. It's a great way to enter and exit a room. I loved kind of like saying it in my head as I left rooms when I was in elementary and middle school,
Mm.
and a little bit of high school too. Uh,
And a little bit of now, around the age of
pause,
30.
pause the recording. Pause 1 second. There.
No, like, like millennials are like the emerging boomers. So now, like, all of like the throwback lists are like, when you listen to like oldies stations and now you're hearing like Nirvana on the radio and you're like, no, I don't
I'm
want to.
not. I'm not happy about that. I mean,
Mm-mm.
the first off, related but not related. I actually saw the new Steve. I think the guy's Asian now or something. Whoever the new guy is for Blue's Clues, he
Mm-hmm.
was like just recording something in the middle of the Flatiron District a couple weeks ago. So I actually saw him in action. I almost wanted to skidoo into the camera view, but like I you know I decided against it at the last
Yeah.
moment. But it is kind of just disappointing how we've transitioned into this whole now we're kind of becoming that older generation. I
Yeah.
it shouldn't be, Drake released an album today, but he's like 11 years in the game
Yeah.
because he
That's not right.
started when I was about to go to college, and what that means is now it's been almost 11 years since I began college, which just sounds crazy to
He's the kid in the wheelchair in Degrassi. That's it.
me. Right.
That's it. And
Jimmy's
it's
all grown up. He's James now.
mm, Stefan Urkel
Yeah.
taught himself how to
No,
walk again.
no. Stefan Urkel isn't an aged Steve Urkel. He's a coolified Steve Urkel. What type of reference was that? You just wanted to throw it out there. You
I did.
wanted to let people know you knew who Stefan Urkel was. And that was a rough plug.
I wanted to get my cool card from the from the, whatever.
From the what?
I don't know.
From the hood? From the hood
Sure.
that listens to this?
Yeah.
So it's not catered to the hood. I'm not tapping into my hood demographic with this. This is not where this is coming from.
This is
Like,
where we build bridges. Right?
What are you?
Hello.
What are you in the background of people as like Al Sharpton's trying to like make new like relationships with people or something? Like I don't. Uh,
I
God,
mean,
how did we get off of this from Blue's Clues? How did we
I don't
get here?
know. I the only thing I know in the world is that I don't want to talk about Al Sharpton ever, alone on this podcast.
Is he not old enough to be considered universally like classic?
I mean,
He's a loud guy.
yeah.
He's like a safe person to meant to reference for like who white people would know too, because like I can't really go too far in, right? Like he's like a classic guy
I
that
mean,
I
I can
know
think of
have.
one guy who's like probably a little bit better known by everyone. Hmm.
I've dug myself into a hole. Yeah. So and that's Al Sharpton for you. So anyway, I'm good. Anyway, it brings us to
We may have had a production issue. It doesn't bring us to anything. That doesn't segue into
no, I
literally
definitely
anything.
gave like probably the most in-depth discussion on who Al Sharpton is as a person, what his values are, and what he's trying to achieve for not only his people but globally humans worldwide.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it was a great explanation. It's unfortunate the production kind of chipped out at that moment, but
Go to
here we are.
patreon.com/BK and BJ, and you won't find anything because we don't have a Patreon yet. But if you want to give us money, just do that. Anyone who's listening to this knows us personally anyway. You can just Venmo us.
Right, right. We're not like that type of famous yet. Help. But so it brings us to today's meat of the episode, right? So with today being the release of Certified Lover Boy by my man Drake, like I mentioned earlier, it kind of had me in that type of like zone of mood, that type of feeling today, where we kind of delve back into the topic of love, and we kind of talk about maybe some love experiences that did not go well, uh, some things that did not go according to plan or kind of hit us from left field. I know you have about one because your life is pretty serene, but me, I have a couple because my life is tough and I have been through hardship after hardship and I've persevered and come out on top each and every time. So would you like to begin, Brendan, on maybe some love experiences that haven't quite worked out for you, or like some like really weirdo, just just odd men that have just kind of come across your path?
Yeah. Uh, and I was not aware that Drake released a new album, but I was listening to Heartbreaker by Mariah Carey and Jay-Z earlier, so I feel like, you and I can relate as far
Some
as.
good some good adult contemporary music there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. for for my old bones. Yeah, I don't have so much like stories as I do have like incidents. I have
Yeah.
one guy who is blocked on my phone. Um, I think his name was, well, it's not important what his name was. What's important is that we had a pretty decent date back in the day. We went to the Crocodile Lounge in the East Village ish area. Um, and we had some
Shout out to them.
shout out. Well, Um,
No, dude, I've heard that on radio. I don't know. That
shout
may
out to
have not been
them.
right. Okay.
They just might not
That-
be particularly pleased that but what I'm about to say. So we had, we had some drinks and some individual sized pizzas, and we just kind of, you know, jerked each other off a little bit in the like out on the floor on the dance floor. It's not real, and there's not really a dance floor there. These were sloppier times um, for me as a professional. Um,
I'm sorry.
so
And
as a
at the
person,
prime age of what, 57, which is what you are, those times were so way back that you had to call them sloppier time. What was it like? At most 7 years ago? Like what? When was this?
this was, I mean, this was like, I was probably 23 or 24. No, 25, 25. Yeah.
So like
You have times.
2016.
2015.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah. But, it was one of those things where dude kept texting me afterwards. I wasn't that into it. I was giving like, the signals, like, they say the gay second date out on the scene is ghosting, and I was kind of giving him that experience. And yeah, it just wouldn't stop. It
wait.
was like
So what made the date go wrong that you didn't want him contacting you again?
it was just more of like a when I woke up the next day and had like a think about it for a couple of days, with some sobriety and sunlight. I looked back and I'm like, oh, I'm actually not that attracted. We didn't really talk about that much. We just kind of got a little
Handsy,
freaky.
handsy.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that
So
kind of like interesting? So I'm trying to build like a chronological series of events here.
uh
So you just met this guy. You guys went to the Crocodile Lounge. Shout
yeah,
out to
shout,
CL on the
shout out.
LES. And when you went there, like first date, just meeting him, right? Am I correct?
Hmm.
And instantly just physical. Like you guys didn't even really talk about much, and it just kind of went into this whole area of just like hands on crotches.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is not crazy actually
No, it's
for
not.
the
It's
gays
just
out in
I'm
the
just trying
wild.
to like just trying to build that, to build that story, bridge some gaps there. And then you kind of like woke up the next morning and realized that, you know, there wasn't much more to him than like his physical. I'm sorry, are you reading an article that's blowing your mind right now, or is it?
No, I was pulling up the last like texts from him, and
Okay.
then I'm
What do you
remembering
what do you
now.
how many difficult conversations are in there? Like your eyes, like your eyebrows furrowed multiple times, like wow, that's happened. Whoa, that happened. What's
I,
going on in there? What's your message history like?
yeah, I basically said like, hey, I'm not into this. And then he was like, just kept texting. He was like, and at one point he was like, oh, message received. Anyway, like fun times, touching on each other. And then I was like, okay, I'm out of the woods. And then he just one day was high, and then that later that evening, I assume on alcohol, he was like, he just started to just tell me what was going on in his life.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, flew back on the red eye from Seattle last night. Was going to go straight home and sleep, but at the last minute, they had the cab take me to Bellevue so I could attend, because he's like a doctor or a nurse or something like that. Probably could have skipped it, but word on the street is you get a nasty email if you skip out. And I'm like, oh, so you're just like, this feels like, it
So
feels
he
like
did you
Tumblr
ask
bait.
him? Did you ask him how his day was?
No.
He just started to tell you what was going on with him
As far as I was
emotionally.
concerned, yeah, we were like, done, and he wanted to stay in touch, and he did stay in touch. And then at a certain point after, wow, I a lot of like pictures and stories apparently. I just blocked his number one day. That was a little weird, that one.
So he just started talking to himself basically because you weren't
Basically.
even like entered.
Yep.
You gave no indication that you were interested in what was going on in his life in the least bit, but he just started to tell you like everything under the sun that was happening to
Matter of fact, I told him, like, I'm sorry, I'm not available for you.
him.
And I mean, it took me a while. I think I just got fascinated after a while. This started on February 11th of that year. This is 2017, actually. I can't believe this feels like it would have been sooner. And he kept texting himself and sending me pictures of like what he was up to. Not even like sexual pictures, but like, hey, I'm at work. Like
like a
so
text message IG story that was just permanent.
February
Okay.
11th, and the last one that I received before I finally blocked him was April 29th. So March, April. So 2 months, he's just texting himself to me. And I feel like I wonder if I would like unblocked him if I would just get like a whole like a flood of crazy shit.
You'd probably just continue getting a picture or two a day. He's probably still messaging you to this day. That is odd.
Yeah.
That, wow. Okay. Well,
Is that it? Was that what you were expecting?
no, that's pretty good. Here's a good segue into maybe one of my stories. When he was sending you like messages and pictures of everything he was doing throughout his day, and you weren't responding for months, did
Mhm.
you then decide to maybe call the police on him?
No, no, because he didn't know where I lived.
Okay. All right.
So we met up at
Then
the bar. We hooked up a little bit. We went to another bar for like a little nightcap, and it just didn't work out. But then he was like, "Oh, like it's fine, but like even if you want to, have a booty call or something like that." And I was like, "No." And then he just kept on texting, texting, texting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could no, and sometimes it's not like that. Sometimes you do kind of want a second first date kind of thing where like things just
Hmm.
kind of go a little bad. Like I've had a date, I think one date where um the girl and I we met on an app and we went out to this spot in Williamsburg that was pretty cool. And we had a great time. Like we had drinks and just like an appetizer, and we walked by the East River and everything. And I offered no physical signs of intimacy at all. Like I didn't hug her. I didn't hold her hand while we were walking. Didn't put my arm around her when we sat down. You really kind of thought this was like some type of weird arranged meeting in like the 17th century, maybe, or like we were of the most strictest creed of religion. Like it was kind of just embarrassing on my end. To be fair, I went through like a traumatic family experience 3 weeks before the date. I was in no shape to be dating anyone, to be trying to like be out there again socially in that way, but I was in denial at the time. We had a great conversation. Like I think the only thing missing was like the physical signs of like if I had just like placed my hand somewhere on her, I think that would have like sealed the deal. Maybe not in that way exactly, but like had I just given her like a little bit of a clue that like I was like interested, hand on a leg or
A
like
clue.
oh no.
We
Wait,
just gotta
what?
do. We can't
Is
do
is a is
that.
a is a letter gonna come out of nowhere and you're gonna sing the mail
We
song
just
too?
got a letter. We just got a letter. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
And after we departed, she wanted a second date after we departed. We had a couple of like conversations or whatever, and rightfully so, like totally within her right. Like she was like, I don't see us going in this direction at all. Like I just kind of see us being kind of friends. And I was like, oh well, okay. And like I was like torn between telling her like, no, I mean like I'm not in the right state of mind. Give me like 2.5 months and check back with me. But like you gotta take a loss when it's a loss and charge it to the
Yep.
game. And I tried to kind of remain like keep up a platonic relationship, but like also like I just didn't understand the rules of like dating, right? Like when
Mhm.
the girl was like, let's just be friends, it's cool. That actually just means like, nah, this is it.
Yeah.
Like we're done. Right.
Yeah.
So completely my fault. That is on me. And not like I was giving her like a I didn't give her a day-to-day update for sure. Like I didn't keep texting her or like messaging her or whatever, but I definitely can understand where like maybe a first date kind of goes a little wrong. It is a little unfair, like you only get that one shot sometimes. You got to present this perfect image or like this ideal image this one time, and it has to
Yeah.
hit or else you miss it forever. Like for some guys like myself, it creates a lot of pressure to kind of perform the best you can on one try, and then you end up falling flat because you get too into your head.
I will tell you, I think for this episode, we actually probably could go like tit for tat on this because I'm remembering things as you're saying them.
Yeah,
I
yeah, I bet you
actually
do.
yeah, yeah. Oh, she's gotten around. Um, but
Hey.
she sure has. Uh, I had still the best date that I've ever been on was back in 2015 or 2016. Amazing date. Everything was amazing. Like the banter, the vibe. We got drinks at the Comedy Cellar. We like made out under some scaffolding afterwards. It was just like sparks flew. It was amazing. I was like, this is my
Mm,
husband.
yeah.
Um and
This my husband. Yeah,
yeah,
I get
this is
it.
my
Yeah.
this is my husband. Yeah. Um maybe cut that part. Um you
That
trap me
sentence,
into like
that sent,
I just
that sentence comes with acrylic nails, by the way. This my
yeah,
husband.
yeah. um um and like and it was mutual. It was just like it was perfect. We like we went back to his place briefly, but we didn't go too far. And his roommate, I guess, came back, and then I had to go, and he was like apologizing for that, and I was like, no, it's all good. It's just amazing. It was the best date that I've ever been on. It's never been topped. Never been topped. Shout out Matt from Georgia. Um, but the what I fumbled on was on the follow up. I got way too into it. I he had to postpone the second date, and I said the inside part on the outside, and
Mm.
I was like, "Oh man, I was really looking forward to seeing you tonight." And like, yeah, yeah,
Wait,
just
you said that?
I surely did. I surely did.
Which isn't
Surely
even
did.
that bad. I just want to objectively look at that from the outside. That sounded like a terrible statement. Actually, some people would kind of be glad to want to know that like you were like looking forward to seeing them. But I'd love to see how this millennial reacted to that because they love
It's
to kind of react healthily to.
it 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 reeked of desperation, and I had to really like work on getting reeling that fish back in, and eventually I got him. I got him.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. That was good. You really kept with that metaphor.
yeah, and so we went out in Brooklyn, actually, or no, the East Village. There was a puppy parade going on. Do you remember the East Village puppy parade? It's the
No, no.
it's
I
the greatest thing. going, and I don't know if it's going anymore, but it was a great occasion. It was a great date, like
Okay.
facilitator. Um, so we ended up walking around, and then we encountered a homeless guy. Um, this like scraggly, like bearded white dude, and comes up to both of us, and we're like, I don't have anything, whatever you normally say, especially when they look like they're potentially hostile. And he comes up to me like this, and I'm like frozen because I'm like, I don't know what to do. And he like, I was wearing a hoodie, and he zipped the hoodie down, and I was like, I don't want to be the first person to like throw a punch or whatever, but I'm ready. But then he just said, "What do you hear? Just sucking a bunch of dog dicks?" Like,
Instant questions, like on site. Questions about that. Okay, first of all, be damned if a motherfucker walks up to me and begins unzipping my hoodie, and I don't at least take a step back. What are you, paralyzed by fear? What happened? Like, you just allowed it to occur.
it was a
What a
different
weirdly.
time.
Please stop doing that.
It wouldn't happen now. No one's
It
allowed to come near me now.
it wouldn't.
Trust and believe it would not happen now.
It wouldn't, because we've adopted this pseudo social distancing
That's
climate.
not
But
why. It wouldn't happen now. I promise you. It was a different time. It was a different time. There was a different president. I think Obama was still president. Leave me alone on that. All right. I was taken very aback, and I was just like,
what an oddly intimate moment between you and this homeless guy, by the way. Like, all
man,
you're missing was like the rain, and then the final like pucker kiss before it was like a
I know.
typical, just like a
Except my
just a,
date was right next to me, and then I
yeah.
basically just like, they. I don't want to use the cuck word, but like it was bad. It didn't look good to not do something. But it was like, this is violating, but this isn't violent. But I think I was thinking like legally in my head, and I was like, I can't punch him until he like hits me or something like that,
So
and then
you
I
went
can.
through you went through the book of New York law as
I
this
did.
man is like unzipping your hoodie, and you're wondering, oh wow, what are like the right legal steps I could take here
I think I
to get
did.
this man off of me?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, and
And also shout out to the voice of that homeless guy. So
mm.
so Stan Lee approached you basically, and he was just like, "Are you sucking a bunch of doggy dick?"
What are you
Did
sucking
he?
a bunch of dog dicks? And
I hope I
he
hope
cracked
spittle
himself
came
up
onto your
so
face
much.
too.
He cracked himself up so much that he left us alone after that. And then the incident was over. And then and then we went back to his place, not the homeless guy because he doesn't have a place,
Well,
but
it
like,
has. Yeah, wow.
you know,
Wow. I
but
hope he does
the
now, by the way. Shout out to him.
I kind of hope he got
Should
eaten
I
by
stop
dogs.
shouting things out, by the way? Is that not normal?
You can
Like,
keep shouting them out. You and I have different
okay.
hopes for that man.
Right.
I personally hope he had like an ironic demise where like a bunch of dogs kind of, anyway, I don't
Teabagged
know.
him to death. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that'd be
What,
kind of
what,
funny.
just,
I don't
just
think that's
dog dicked
possible.
him. Just dog dicked him to death, is
Yeah,
what
he
you're
just got
saying. Like,
whacked with a bunch of
yeah.
the red lipstick. Um, but but we went back to his place, and then we were like making out again, and I was like, oh, this is. But then his like roommate and their friend came back, and then he was like, okay, like we're done now. And then like he almost like kind of pushed me out the door, and then that was like it. So it was a very strange vibe all around. I wasn't expecting to tell this story. I don't like that it's out there. It's whatever.
Which it wasn't an extreme story, by the way. The most extreme thing that happened was homeless Stan Lee unzipping your hoodie ever so slightly, and then making like
Yeah.
the funniest joke he's ever heard.
Mm-hmm.
told by himself, and then laughing so hard he walked away and ended that situation. It
Yeah.
was actually a pretty nice date.
It's a lesson in de-escalation. It's like a, training for the police. Like, god damn it. Pausing. We'll just So
Yeah. So
that's way more than I was planning on sharing. But
okay, okay. Well, look, as far as you're going, I may take it a step or two further. Stop me if you heard that statement before on this show, but um,
I'm gonna
I was
let you
trying to make.
finish.
Yeah, but if they ain't called the police on you, then they don't really mean it. So I don't know if I told this story before on this platform, but um, I was in college. It was my first time talking to a woman, asking her on a date. Don't know if I said this before. Hopefully, I don't repeat myself. But hey, I mean, we're
No,
at a new format. The camera is now a little lower. The brightness is alternating because all conflicting light. But we're at a better place in life now. So if you haven't heard it before, great. If you have, grab a drink. But I was in college. This is the first time I'm talking to this. I'm talking to any girl. Like I was really delayed as far as like proactively asking out a woman. I did it once before when I asked a girl out to prom, and that went well. It it did go well. I won't even go further into that, but it's my first time like asking out a woman, just like no strings attached, no weird, situation set up, no gotcha. I wasn't trying to trick her, you know. And it was in the business office of my college. I was with my best friend. We go in there, and I see her, and I've been seeing her on campus. She was a commuter. She was great, like she was so beautiful, whatever. I go in there, and my friend, he's like the ultimate wingman. Like he's known me for so many years, and he just knows how to set me up properly, right? Not that he particularly set me up now, but he knew how to like exit the scene so I could do my thing. He was like, "It's your time, youngin. Go in there, young blood, and show him what's what. Do it one time for the OGs."
did you
He's
say
only
young yen?
youngin.
Young yen.
Yeah,
Like a fried
Y
young
O
yen?
YOUNGIN apostrophe.
Oh, young yen.
I hate that I have to break this down to you. I hate that I have to break it down to you.
No, the way you pronounced it, it sounded like
Youngin,
youngin.
because I'm adding a Y in there in between the
Young
G and
yen.
the I.
Yeah, it
Youngin.
makes me feel like you're saying like, "Oh, I can't wait to have some Youngian rings," which I think would make you'd have to be put on a list. Anyway,
A list. So I go in there and I'm like, hey, my name's BJ. I've seen you around and I really think you're kind of pretty. Just wanted to kind of introduce myself to you. And she was like, oh, wow, hi, my name's such and such. And, I've seen you around too. And, I always want to make new friends and meet new people. And I go to the campus center and I sit by myself. And like, it's kind of scary because guys come up to me all the time. And it's like kind of like a little bit forward. And like, I'm just by myself. And so I'm like, oh no, I hope I'm not being too forward by introducing myself to you. And like, she's like, no, you're perfectly fine. We should actually hang out some more at the campus center too. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I go there with my friends all the time. Like every time I'm hungry, it's a cool place to eat. And she was like, okay, yeah, I go there to eat too. And I'm like, as a cafeteria should be done, so we should definitely like go there if we're both hungry at the same time or whatever. And I fell flat in the end, but I got the point across. And she was like, yeah, definitely. And uh we got to like a good place where like she was smiling. My friend came back, and we left, and it was like such great terms. I felt so good. I was on cloud like 8. Cloud 9 would have been if I got her number, but like I was like one cloud below. But we go, and I'm like, all right, time for my evening class. I'm gonna see you later, man. And we like part ways or whatever. He goes and does his job at the university police department because he was like an intern there or whatever, or like a work study student, right? So I come back from my night class. It's like 9 o'clock. I come back in, and he's standing in the living room watching the TV. And like, I didn't want to laugh as I came in, but like the TV light hit him at an angle that made him look just like extra exhausted with this entire like scenario of me as a human. And I was like, what? Why you what? And he's like, I was like, what happened? He's shaking his head. He's sighing. I'm like, what happened? He's like, well, I was at the police station and Officer Joe comes up to me. He's like, hey, isn't your friend BJ, by the way, BJ Mills? And he was like, yeah, how do you know him? And he was like, well, this girl comes in and she says that he's been like harassing her, and she was filing a restraining order, like a complaint, and she wanted a restraining order against him so he would leave her alone because she's tired of him kind of just like harassing her. And so I'm like, well, which girl is this? And he's like, which girl do you think? Which girl do you have the most hopes for? And which girl do you believe that you would actually like have like any type of like chance with and like any source of hope of happiness? I'm like, oh no, not that one. And yeah, so that was like my first time asking out a girl. She went to the university police department and reported me for harassment, and I had to stay away from her. It wasn't like an official document, but like they like told me to like stay, as reasonably far away from her as possible, unless I had like a class with her. My first time.
You would only talk to her once?
One time. I wished it was a time where I'm like, yeah, and then like I stalked her on Facebook and I looked up her pictures.
Yeah.
And I accidentally liked a couple of no, like I had no time to even like go into that level of like investigative. Like I just talked to her in person. I didn't know her name until that day.
Yeah.
Literally, she must have left the office because it was 4 o'clock when I talked to her. And she must have like went beeline from the business office to the police department as soon as I left. Like there was little to no time to like even make any type of complaint. Yeah. It was, my friend was like, if I wasn't the person telling you the story, I wouldn't believe you if you told me. I'm like, look, hey,
wow.
That's just the way that cookie crumbles. I think I said something like that and like try to like brush it off, but he was like, you don't have to. I'm like, no, the cookie's crumbling. It's fine. That's how it crumbles sometimes. He's like, you can feel like pain. Like it's okay to like show a little. He's like, I'm like, no, crumble is cookie.
I like cookies.
Yeah, the cookie's crumbling, and I'm gonna let it crumble because like I'm a man, and I like my cookies crumbled. And I walked away. I don't know, like I'm gonna crumble my own cookie. Damn it!
I'm gonna have some cookies and cream.
Fuck like, y'all.
Shut up.
Yeah. My first time talking to a girl, and then, of course, my favorite experience, which was like fairly recently, right? Where I had met this girl at a bar. We hit it off instantly. Like great conversation. I usually don't have great conversations with girls too quickly. Not a lot of people want to talk about like just like life and like how's your mental doing and stuff like that. We like dove deep right off the jump, and it was a fantastic conversation. We had a great time together. We definitely had some ups and downs, but it was never anything that would like kind of just say, this girl's kind of weird. I mean, there was a couple of times where it was like kind of like suspicious, right? But I think the climax came last summer when we hadn't talked a little bit or whatever. And after a month or so, we caught back up, and she was like, hey, you want to go to yoga with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. No problem. We could definitely do that. Haven't really done that outside in public, but F my ego. Let's just do this thing. And so obviously I was the only Black man in that yoga session. I think I was the only man in that session too. But it was cool doing that with her. Like it was fine because she just kind of made everything.
Date.
It is like, and we like I had a lot of fun. Like I would do yoga again too, and like it was a great experience and all that stuff. And we caught some drinks after her idea, and we lived like fairly close to each other too. So we went to like a local bar or whatever in Brooklyn. Um, and you know, she's kind of telling me, "Oh yeah, I broke up with my boyfriend too." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And but at that point, we kind of transitioned from relationship to friends, and I was like, "Okay, well, that's cool. I'm sorry. I mean, not cool. I'm sorry to hear that, you know." And she's like, "It's fine. You know, he was just like, he was such a beta anyway." And I'm like, "Yeah, you know, like beta ass boys out here on the block. I don't know."
As you're doing
Uh,
like a
yeah.
tree, like yeah, he's beta as fuck. You're like
as
downward dogging.
as I transition into like the freaking warrior pose. Yeah, so we have a great combo there or whatever. And then later that week we go and we have like a bike ride. And like at this point, by the way, like again, we're definitely more so friends than anything else. Like we
Yeah.
have kind of like come to a conclusion that she was like kind of not ready for a relationship. There was like an age gap there or whatever. And we were just having a good time. So we rode bikes for a little bit, and I know that she had her friend coming over to talk about some relationship stuff, so she didn't want me to stick around. So after we rode bikes, I stayed for like maybe 10 minutes and then left. Uh, we departed from each other. I said hello to a friend. Everything was like peachy and keen, right? Together at the same time.
Mhm.
The following morning at like at like 5:50 in the
Yeah.
morning, right? I get the most scathing paragraph I've ever heard in my life, where basically I'm told she wants nothing to do with me in life ever again. She called me a child, and she's not a babysitter. And she says nothing against you. I'm just a human being who finds herself absolutely drained by any and all interactions with you in any way, shape, or form. And I'm like, I'm reading through. I'm like, wow, noted. And it kind of gets to the point where she's like, oh, and also like you should look into yourself and discover why you bring the worst out in people by being four shades from a stalker. And if I ever see you again, I'll probably wave hi or say hello, but I want nothing more than that. So please don't pine for me any harder than you usually do. And uh, be well, and no hard feelings on my end.
That's a very like it's a very schizophrenic message, by the way. It's very
There's a lot of
contradictory.
there's a lot of typos too. I thought maybe she was on a drug. I started looking up. Yeah, I was like, you know, that's very early in the morning, and it was like the first thought she had was like,
Or or coming from an Irish family, or
mm,
it was very
she
late at
is it?
night, or it's very late at
Oh,
night. Yeah,
oh.
sun's coming up. The lock in at the bar is over.
Mm-hmm.
I
Ew.
don't. I don't. You piece of shit! Stop with the yoga, and I don't like you anymore. And now, but I'm not babysitting this. It's like I almost picture her doing like a voice to text thing, and then it just maybe that's why there was typos.
Possibly. It was like extremely long for that early in the morning. I've never seen anyone be that mad. Like she woke up and chose violence on site. Like I've never seen anyone that upset with another human being that early in the morning. But if it was just that late in the night, that makes a lot more sense. I mean, she did come from an Irish family. So I was totally torn up that entire weekend because like I'm over here wondering, man, sheesh, maybe I am four shades of from a stalker by asking her like how she's doing and like conversing with her. But then,
Accompanying her on bike rides and yoga. I mean, that's
yeah, you
classic,
know, like
classic stalker behavior. Well, when she asks you to come, by the way,
right, like
yeah,
I was like, man, maybe I should really look into my character development. Maybe I'm just kind of interpreting this all wrong.
Yeah.
Honestly, between her getting more real into the story, between what happened to me during the year and the pandemic, and then that situation, that's what ended up pushing me into therapy. And I started going to therapy for the first time just because like I was so confused at like
Yeah.
the amount of times I've been called things like that and where my intentions lie as far as like what I do and like what I mean behind what I do. And of course, through that and through like reading some good books and obviously talking to some good friends like BK, you kind of learn some things, you know. You learn
Yeah.
that oftentimes when people are that mad at you or even like slightly mad at you or blow up out of nowhere, that's called projection. You know, like they're angry with themselves.
Mm.
What people don't realize though is what you project to people is a reflection upon yourself in the form of karma, right? So if you project uh, toxic behavior, then your life will be nothing but toxic because you just kind of get what you give in the universe, you know. And uh, you know, and there's something to not taking things personally. It's a powerful tool if you kind
Yeah.
of understand that people are really ego-centered, and for better or for worse, they don't think about you as much as you think that they do.
Yep.
And even when they're lashing out at you, that's really more so an a reaction of anger from themselves, either because you portray a trait that they wish that they had, or you show a trait that they don't like about themselves, right?
Mhm.
So for it really is about you. Unless you actually do an action maliciously against them, uh, it ain't you, right? And that's the toughest lesson to kind of like take home, where it's like you you are not as bad as you think you are. You're not as great as you think you are, but you're definitely not as bad as you think you are either, right? So since that year or so, whenever that happened, I think I've I think I've been on a good journey to kind of realizing and learning an important lesson in human behavior. A lesson that I've read about multiple times, by the way. It's not like I'm new to the game, right? But to see it in action and to kind of like really drive it home and solidify it and incorporate it into my being. I think that's how, you know, that's the importance behind it. I've seen that woman multiple times because, as I stated, we live close by to each other. And
Oh.
each time that I've seen her, especially the first time I saw her was like just a couple days after it happened. I saw her in the park or whatever, and she gave such a like a kind of a scared like facial response. Like I can't determine, not me, but there would have to have been a third party there because obviously I was messed up that weekend because I was still reeling. But you know, it's either like, please don't approach me. I just want this to die out, or I'm so embarrassed by what I said. I hope that you don't come here and like call me out on it and like make me feel bad. And we'll never know because I didn't see her at first, but I was walking towards her by the time I focused in on her on the grass, and I kind of like made like a 90-degree turn and just walked the other way because I just didn't want anything to do with that. Because like I would hate if someone really thought that about me. I don't want any type of indication. If anything, like, and you know this, I'm a very bad responder. Like I'm very in and out of people's lives. So like I'm not I'm nothing near stalker material. Don't be so happy about that. But I'm nowhere near stalker. I can't commit long enough to be a stalker. Like my attention span doesn't run that long. So
No.
if I do find that I am, like it gets worse for my friends because now I'm gonna fall back even more because it's like,
Mhm.
oh wow, I must be too into this. Am I engaged too much now? Like let me make sure people have their space. And then you catch yourself, you realize that why are you doing this for people? Like, why are you always catering to people? Right? Why are you always thinking like I should do this because these people might think that, you know, and when's the last time you really did something for yourself? You know, so um
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
it's yeah, I think the older you get, you know, the more you realize, like, at first you're like, oh, no one cares, and then when you get older, it's like nobody cares. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's like the secret of adulthood, and like that's where you can get your power from. But I think if we've I think we've learned from these stories that you know good intentions kind of rule, and you know if you have the self-awareness to think maybe I'm crazy or maybe I'm too much, it's probably not you.
yeah.
It's probably the other
and
person.
and I spent a lot of time blaming myself, and now I kind of accept the fact that like people can just get offended by anything, right? But I
Hmm.
do take the accountability that people don't tend to take, where it's like
Yeah.
on my end, um I allowed this person into my sanctuary, and I was shocked that she ruined my fine china. I cannot be shocked that I let a miscreant into my sanctuary that I built and spent so long building, and then be surprised that the miscreant did miscreant things. Like I need to have a better security guard at the door,
Hmm.
right? And I think people kind of give you what they're about from like the first encounter.
Yeah.
Like first dates, like we talked about earlier. Sometimes a second first date's a good idea, because like the person may have good qualities, but like you can obviously tell like it was just a social awkwardness that like takes a
Mm.
little time to warm up to. But the core of what they are, they give you that. Like when girls tell me that they're crazy, that used to be like an attractive thing for me. Now it's like, well, no, like do you
Hmm.
get that checked? Like what prescription are you on? Do you take like some Zoloft? And like no, like when when they tell me they're crazy, I take that as their word, because a crazy person, no one wants that. Like I don't want that type of tumultive tum, tum, tumultive ugh,
Tumultuous.
man, tumultuous. Oh my god, tongue tied. Uh, uh, woman in my life. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Take people at their word. Um, you really do kind of get what you're getting with people.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we've uh we've solved it. All of
I
human
think
misery.
I think we definitely did.
Yeah.
What is the lesson today? I think the lesson is
I think we just spent like 10 minutes going over what the
was
lesson
that the
was.
lesson? Oh,
Yeah.
I
The
was just
lesson was no
ranting.
one
Did that did
cares.
that
It's
come
good.
off?
Yeah, you were
Okay,
you were preaching
I was
to the
talking my
choir.
talk.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, let me
Yeah.
get off my damn soapbox. I was about to say putting your faith in people who fail you is not progress, but like I don't need to even say that part, which I
Yeah.
just did. So much gold was dropped today.
We'll take the
Hopefully we're
children to
recording.
church next week. We are
Yeah.
recording.
Okay, thank goodness. I just gave a lot of gold. All
There
right,
you go.
I'm proud of me.
That's
What
good.
do you bring to the table, man?
Nothing. I'm just gonna end it.
Okay,
We'll
cool.
come back. We'll come back next time with some more weird stories, and
Of course.
maybe a guest. Who knows?
Oh,
Things
guests
are
are coming
happening.
soon. I
Things are
have
happening.
Van. There are some good people in the pipeline for sure.
Hmm.
I'm looking forward to future
I
episodes.
don't know, like they're good people, but like they're good
Oh
guests.
no, like bottom of the barrel,
Yeah.
like the underseat of the society, but very entertaining.
Yeah. We'll bring
One may
some.
have to one may have to be anonymous. Like it's gonna get like raw.
We're gonna,
Well,
yeah,
I'm really hyping
blur
this up.
their face and just
Yeah,
read
just
the review.
it's just
Yeah.
like a deep throat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be back with more lessons and swamp creatures next time.
Yep. Yep.
Peace.
Later.